I'm so excited to meet you.
My gosh, that's a big guitar.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
It's the size of me.
At just 10 years old, Melnick Virgolino walked onto the America's Got Talent stage with the swagger of a seasoned rocker, guitar slung low, eyes laser focused, and an electric presence that immediately defied every expectation the crowd had of a child his age. What followed wasn't cute, and it wasn't gimmicky, it was explosive. With a guitar nearly half his size and a confident stride that mirrored the legends he idolizes, Bay tore into his performance with an intensity so fierce it momentarily stunned both the audience and the judges into silence. Viewers who tuned in expecting a feel-good talent show moment were instead treated to a jaw-dropping shred session that ignited AGT's live audience into roaring applause. Judge Simon Cowell leaned in, visibly taken aback, while Howie Mandel looked around in disbelief. Social media erupted within minutes, with fans dubbing Bay the Mini Slash and clips of his solo racking up hundreds of thousands of views before the show had even ended. But what was it that made this performance so impactful? It wasn't just the flawless technique or the note-perfect delivery. It was the attitude. The same gritty, rebellious fire that defines rock legends seemed to pulse through this pint-sized prodigy, sending shockwaves through a show used to gimmicks and novelty acts. And yet, as the crowd stood in awe and the judges showered him with praise, few realized that this moment was just the tip of the iceberg. Because behind that powerhouse performance was a story far deeper, far more intense, and far more unpredictable than anyone watching could have imagined. And what sparked this young rocker's journey? That's where the Real story begins. Long before the lights of AGT ever found him, Melnick Virgolino's journey began in a quiet New York City apartment where a 5-year-old boy became utterly hypnotized by a single guitar solo on TV, a thunderous slash riff that would permanently reroute his life. Most children that age are still fumbling through nursery rhymes, but Bay didn't want lullabies, he wanted distortion. Fueled by a sudden and fierce obsession with rock music, Bay begged his parents for a guitar. Not a toy, not a plastic replica, a real instrument. And when they gave in, they quickly realized they weren't dealing with an ordinary child's phase. While his peers were watching cartoons or kicking soccer balls, Bay was locked in his room, replaying solos, mimicking finger placements, and memorizing every slash performance he could find. By 6, he wasn't just playing chords, he was improvising. By 7, he was diving into tone, pedals, fretwork, even experimenting with stage presence in front of the mirror. His hands were small, but his ambition wasn't. This wasn't a case of parental pressure or viral chasing. It was raw, self-propelled passion. His parents, recognizing the intensity of his drive, supported him not as managers, but as facilitators, signing him up for guitar lessons, encouraging him to perform at small local events, and helping him build an online presence through carefully curated videos. But no one, not even his most enthusiastic fans, predicted how rapidly that spark would turn into a wildfire. Because the moment Bay stepped onto the AGT stage, everything changed. This wasn't just about talent anymore, it was about timing, exposure, and the raw magnetism of a kid who was about to break the rules of what young talent looks like on a global stage. And while his backstory was impressive, nothing could prepare audiences for what he did next under those hot lights. When Melnick Virgolino stepped into the national spotlight during his America's Got Talent audition, it wasn't just another kid with talent moment. It was a seismic shift that left the judges visibly rattled and audiences questioning everything they thought they knew about young performers. Dressed in black with a guitar slung low, Bay launched into Lenny Kravitz's "Are You Gonna Go My Way?" with a ferocity that seemed to erupt from somewhere far older than his 10-year-old frame. The first few seconds were enough to quiet the room, but by the time he hit his stride, unleashing rapid-fire riffs and stomping across the stage like a headliner at Madison Square Garden, the crowd was on its feet. What stood out most wasn't just technical proficiency, though he had that in spades, but the swagger, the timing, the instinct. He didn't mimic rock legends, he embodied them. The camera caught Simon Cowell mouthing, "Wow," while Sofia Vergara called the performance wildly unexpected. Within minutes, social media lit up. Clips from the audition raced across platforms, pulling in millions of views, with fans calling him the second coming of Slash. and industry insiders whispering that this wasn't just a fluke. It was a career-launching moment. But while the buzz was electric and the applause nearly deafening, many didn't realize this audition was only the opening salvo in a much bigger campaign. Because Bey's next appearance on AGT wouldn't just confirm his talent, it would cement his reputation as one of the most unforgettable acts in the show's recent history. And when the quarterfinals rolled around, Bey didn't just rise to the occasion, he detonated it. The quarterfinals of America's Got Talent are known for separating raw promise from real contenders. And Bey Melnick Virgolino didn't just survive the pressure, he turned it into a firestorm. As the stage lights dimmed and the crowd waited, there was a buzz in the air, not just anticipation, but expectation. Then came the opening riff. I love rock and roll, bold, iconic, and dangerously overplayed. But Bey flipped it on its head. What followed was a performance so electric it blurred the lines between child prodigy and full-blown rock star. With pyrotechnics in the background and a full band driving the momentum, Bey didn't just perform, he commanded. He strutted across the stage, eyes locked into the crowd, fingers flying across the fretboard in a way that seemed almost impossible for someone his age. His vocals weren't pitch perfect, but they didn't need to be. The raspy edge, the imperfect swagger, the "I don't care, I'm here to shred" attitude was exactly what made the moment unforgettable. Simon Cowell, not known for easy praise, leaned back in his chair and grinned. "You came out here with real attitude," he declared. A rare nod of respect that echoed louder than any standing ovation. Fans immediately stormed social media with hashtags like #MiniSlash and #BeyBlowsItUp trending within hours. But the real takeaway wasn't just his growing fan base. It was the realization that Bey wasn't here to play it safe. He was staking his claim, rewriting the script for what young musicians could do on a global platform. And yet, behind the stage lights and roaring crowds, a different kind of spotlight was forming. One that carried with it pressure, expectations, and questions that no guitar solo could silence. Because, as the performances got louder, so did the whispers about what came next. As the cheers from the quarterfinals began to fade, a new kind of noise began to build. One that wasn't coming from the crowd, but from the industry itself. Bey Melnick Virgolino, barely a decade into life, had become a household name in a matter of weeks. And with that sudden fame came a tidal wave of questions, speculations, and strategic opportunities that few 10-year-olds or their families are ever fully prepared for. Behind the scenes, his name was already circulating among guitar forums, artist showcases, and gear endorsements. The biggest stamp of credibility? Bey was officially named a Pulse Artist by PRS Guitars, a rare recognition typically reserved for up-and-coming musicians who show both talent and long-term potential. It was a badge of honor, but also a signal. This wasn't just a one-time AGT moment. The spotlight was expanding, and with it, so was the weight. Fan pages exploded across Instagram and TikTok, many begging for him to release original music, go on tour, or collaborate with other young artists. His performances were being dissected not just for entertainment value, but for commercial viability. And yet, amid the praise, there were murmurs of concern. Was Bey being pushed too fast? Was he being steered toward brand deals before he'd even written his first song? With his parents managing his public profile, some online observers began debating the line between healthy support and potential overexposure. Every move he made, from his guitar tone to his stage outfits, became subject to scrutiny. But through it all, Bey kept playing, posting, and performing with the same gritty passion that first got him noticed. Still, it was clear, the days of being just a kid who plays guitar were over. And while the stage was getting bigger, so were the stakes, and the challenges hiding just beyond the applause. Beneath the applause and viral headlines, a quieter narrative is unfolding. One that doesn't trend on social media, but could define Bey Melnick Virgolino's entire future. While the world sees a pint-sized rock star lighting up the AGT stage, few are asking the tougher questions that surround child fame, especially in the high-stakes world of performance art. Experts in the music industry warn that child prodigies often walk a tightrope. Too much exposure too soon can lead to burnout, identity confusion, or worse, a loss of passion altogether. Physically, Bey still has years of growth ahead, including the inevitable vocal changes that come with puberty, which could drastically affect both his sound and stage dynamic. Mentally and emotionally, the pressure to live up to public expectation is immense, especially when every performance, every social media post, and every misstep is broadcast to millions. Fans have already begun speculating. Can he transition from covers to original material without losing momentum? Will industry handlers push him toward marketability instead of authenticity? And what happens if the spotlight dims just as quickly as it appeared? For now, Bey seems shielded by a strong parental presence and a team that respects his pace. But the entertainment world has a history of turning childhood talent into adult cautionary tales. From exhaustion to online criticism to creative stagnation, the threats are real, even if they remain behind the curtain. And as Bey continues to rise, one question looms larger with each passing performance. Can he maintain the fire without getting burned? Because the difference between being a viral star and a lifelong artist often comes down to how the next move is played. With each electrifying performance, Bey Melnick Virgolino moves closer to a critical crossroads, one that every young sensation eventually faces. What comes after the show ends? While America's Got Talent has been the launching pad, it's what happens next that will determine whether Bey becomes a lasting figure in the music world or fades into the long shadow of viral fame. Industry insiders have already taken note of his rare combination of technical mastery, stage presence, and authentic passion, the trifecta that separates true artists from passing novelties. As a PRS Pulse artist, Bey now has access to industry mentors, recording connections, and a growing online fan base hungry for more than just covers. The path ahead could take many forms. He could begin writing and releasing original music, establishing his voice not just as a guitarist, but as a songwriter. A YouTube channel packed with behind-the-scenes content and guitar tutorials could solidify his digital footprint while building community. There's even talk within fan circles about potential collaborations with other youth rockers or even legacy musicians, the kind of cross-generational exposure that builds careers. But the decisions made in the next 12 months will be pivotal. Will he lean into the freedom of independent artistry, or sign with a label seeking to polish and package his image for commercial gain? Will his parents continue to protect his pace, or be lured by fast-track offers that risk long-term stability? There's no guaranteed blueprint for turning young fame into adult success. Only instinct, discipline, and the right people steering the ship. For now, Bey's future remains a wide-open stage, waiting to be shaped by the chords he chooses to play next. But one thing is clear: if he plays it right, he won't just be remembered as the kid who rocked AGT. He'll be the artist who rewrote what a 10-year-old could do with a guitar, a vision, and a dream. And as the world watches closely, the next move could echo louder than anything he's played before. Bey Melnick Virgolino's journey is more than just a feel-good headline or a viral AGT moment. It's a case study in what happens when raw talent meets a global spotlight before adolescence even begins. In a world where attention spans are short and trends disappear overnight, Bey's story cuts through the noise with something deeper: authenticity, hunger, and a spark that refuses to dim. He didn't stumble into fame. He earned it through hours of obsessive practice, a fearless stage presence, and a love for rock music that feels generations older than he is. And yet, behind the viral videos and standing ovations lies the real tension. How do you preserve artistic purity when the world starts watching, judging, and monetizing every move? Bey is standing at the edge of that transition now, teetering between childhood innocence and industry machinery, between creative freedom and commercial expectation. The guitar is still his voice, but for how long will he be allowed to speak in his own key? Will the world let him grow slowly, or demand more than he's ready to give? For now, Bey remains one of the most captivating young figures in the talent world, proof that true artistry can still surprise us, even in a reality TV era driven by gimmicks. But if history has taught us anything, it's that talent alone isn't enough. It takes resilience, guidance, and sometimes even a little rebellion to protect what made the magic possible in the first place. So, as fans, observers, and dreamers, maybe the best thing we can do is watch with patience, cheer with perspective, and resist the urge to rush what's already unfolding at lightning speed. Because the rise of Bay Melnick Virgolino isn't just a moment. It's the start of a much bigger question. Can a 10-year-old rocker hold onto his flame long enough to light up the world? Only time and the next performance will tell.